Hey ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. As always, it is Nick here, back with your daily crypto news and analysis, and today we're going to be talking about the overall crypto market. So sit back, relax, and before we fully jump on into this video, I do just want to ask guys, could hit that like button. It does help the channel grow immensely, and of course I always do greatly appreciate it. Now with that in mind, let's just dive in. Let's talk about a few things. So first off, today we are going to be addressing the 4-year cycle top, which essentially already happened. If we're talking about the 4-year cycle, our topping point in November already happened, and a lot of people definitely are believing that, hey, it's over, we're going into a bear market. I've been seeing a lot of people, there's like a 50-50, amount of individuals saying, the bottom's in, we're going here. And then you have the other 50% saying, all right, this is just the start, wait until we see the prices next month, this month, that month, we're going down all the way to this, percentage and blah, blah, blah. So let's address a few things. Let's talk about it. So first off, yes, I did take a few positions in this market. I've been addressing this. I've talked to you guys about it. The major one was Chainlink. Essentially, 500 Link was purchased at $8. This, in my opinion, was a perfect entry point. I think that when we talk about Chainlink, the level that we just recently seen was a perfect level almost. It was almost a perfect test of the low back here in September of 2020. We hit about like $7.70 back here before we went on that nice run to roughly almost $52, right? Now, if we do go a little bit lower, because like I said, I actually don't believe that the bottom's in. We've been seeing a lot of people trying to call the bottom right now on Twitter. I don't believe that the bottom's in on Bitcoin, and the only reason why I say that is simply because of stocks. Not only stocks, but also I believe that we will most likely see a little bit of a push down to the summer of 2021 lows on Bitcoin, which means, hey, we will most likely see a little bit more of a push on Link. Just recently, our lowest point on Link, it's saying like $8 and like 27 cents here, but honestly, the low was like roughly like $7.90 some cents. Which again is around my stop loss. My stop loss is like $7.90, but it's a manual stop loss, meaning I could tell, if I want to sell or not, basically, because it's not an automatic stop loss in place, which is basically what I usually run, is just manual stop losses in general. That way I could actually, see if there's going to be a major bounce at that level or a sell-off, which $7.90 is my stop loss. I will take a 10-cent loss on every single share if that is the case. But I did also say this on Twitter. I said I have entered a few positions with tight stop losses in order. I am expecting one last flush to 2021 summer lows, but if we don't see it, then I am positioned perfectly for it. Either way, everyone is calling for the bottom to be in, which tells me we might not be there just yet. And a lot of people said, one last flush. Technically, this is your 1,000 first one last flush. I don't think people realize that in this market, there will be flushes right before reversals. In fact, we will see major sell-offs before reversals. Bitcoin has been notorious for this. We've seen this before. In fact, we look back in time, right, to these massive flushes. Here's a nice flush before having the nice impulse back up. For example, the bottom here on this candle was roughly $30,000 before having that nice, push reversal to about like $40,100 before having the next major flush all the way down to our summer lows, right? As you guys do see back here, this is in the summertime. We also seen this in January, right? Here's January's low, roughly $33,000, impulse back up to roughly 45.8K before having another flush down. These flushes are liquidity hunts. Basically, it just has a ton of individuals selling off to provide liquidity for the next major push. Again, people need to lose money for the market to actually provide money to those who are hodling, to those who are holding strong. But I've been seeing a lot of people say, and I've actually seen, a few people say this, that, we've seen this massive sell volume yesterday. In fact, it was a pretty significant sell volume. Now we follow this up with the most amount of buy volume that we've seen since going back as far as roughly January of 2021. So we've seen the most amount of buy volume just recently since going back over a year ago. Now, this has been mentioned by a few people. In fact, Blockchain Backer himself has mentioned this. No crazy reversal in prices today. Yesterday, we saw the most volume for Bitcoin on Coinbase in nearly a year. Obviously, net selling. Today, we had even more volume, setting a new yearly record, but the buyers squeaked out a victory. Now, with this in mind, like I've said, I don't believe that our bottom's in. I mean, a lot of people are saying that it is. I just think that this nice little impulse back up is going to be something pretty significant to watch. I think that we can come up maybe a little bit to roughly like $32,000, which would be about an 8% pump from the bottom here, followed by that drop to the summer lows of roughly a 10% drop, which is enough to flush a lot of weekends out, because we got to remember that Bitcoin dominance is pretty high here. It will most likely push those alts down significantly. But if you do believe in the 4-year cycle, which I know a lot of people do, I think that a lot of people are still kind of saying, you know, our topping point is in. That's fully fine. I understand it. Is the top in for Bitcoin? It could be. It could 100% be in, because if we are following the 4-year cycle, our November topping point, which is 69K, which is just comical, is basically our top. Now, if our bottom is going to come in, it would most likely be within the fall time frame of like October to roughly December, and that would be that 80% drop that we're kind of used to seeing. In fact, when we go back to Bitcoin, we'll actually just go off the 2017, 2018 highs, followed by the low. Now, of course, if we're talking about this is roughly an 84% drop in price. Might not even be on the exact bottom. It's like roughly 84, 85%. If we are following that up this year, we're not even close to our bottoming point. We'll just say like 85 just to be, you know, sure. It would basically be $10,000, which would be almost the floor model, if you will, going back to like September of 2020, before we had that nice impulse to our all-time high, our previous all-time high of like roughly $64,000. So this would be the full-on bear market. The only reason why I've said that like we haven't seen our topping point for, you know, the market is just because we haven't seen peak euphoria. But it doesn't mean that we need to necessarily see peak euphoria for the top to be in. You know, I was actually really saying, like, in terms of our topping point, it's between $70K to about $87,000, with possible pushes of like $100K to $120K between the 1414 and the 1618. But right now, I would say my focus shift is on a strong reversal on Bitcoin. It doesn't mean that it's going to push to new all-time highs, but it would be, you know, hopeful for our altcoin holdings, specifically the ones that we just recently took, to see that nice impulse on Bitcoin. And that impulse on Bitcoin would be a break above $33,000 to $34,000, mainly just breaking up above our lows from January, which is like $33,000, to our lows recently in February, which is $34,400 almost. So I'm waiting to see if this is, you know, either a strong bounce from here, like a nice reversal, which a reversal on Bitcoin, we would actually want to see a reversal on stocks too, which we have not seen at all just recently, which is also telling me, you know, we could still see more action to the bottom. But again, like I said, it's either one, we've seen our 4-year cycle top, or two, we are in a lengthening cycle. I know that a lengthening cycle really hasn't been too realistic for a lot of people. If you go back to 2013, 2014, kind of compare the cycles from that time to 2017, 2018, and even now, our timeline is definitely extended. And it does push the bottom to around like the, you know, October, December timeframe, with our topping point basically being the November of 2021, which means, hey, we are going to see the bear market, and, you know, entering into things right now is just not the best for our dollar, if you will. Which means, hey, that's why we have those tight stop losses in place in order for us to retain our capital and see where things are going to go. I would say full-on confirmation of the bear market being in is a break below the summer lows, which is 28.8K basically. If we break that, then I will say 100% bear market. Until we break that, I'm not going to say bear market just yet, because I do believe that we have one last major swing before, you know, things hit the fan, if you will. But again, a lot of people are also kind of looking at this from the macro perspective. Shout out to Blake here, but we do see wild time for Bitcoin and the market. No need to rush into call in high time frame bottoms until the stock market and Bitcoin show reversal momentum. In my opinion, still room for, you know, below for both. Incredible how similar this has been to the 2019-2020 area. Looking back, historically, a great DCA opportunity. Now, of course, like I said, I have been entering into some positions with very tight stop losses. You guys do see back even in March of 2020 us breaking that trend line. If we do break that trend line again, I'm really kind of looking at prices below 28.8K essentially, which would lead me to believe in that we are in a bear market, but we've seen that trend line broken before with a nice impulse. So again, once we do break that, I would de-risk, wait to see a strong reversal back above that trend line for a nice reversal on Bitcoin entirely. If you zoom out, that level would be, in my opinion, to even re-enter into positions on a nice strong reversal would be a break above, roughly like 33K. So again, I'm waiting to see where Bitcoin kind of goes from here, and same with stocks. But a few people have been trying to call, that the bottom is in. Shout out to Income Sharks. No, hate towards anybody. I think that if we're talking about a bottoming point, it's either we are at the bottom, again, if we are in the lengthening cycle, or we go back down to the 2021 lows and hit that 28.8K zone before having that nice impulse back up. But we do see bulls were greedy at 68K, calling for 100K. Now bears getting greedy, calling for 27K. If you were willing to buy the top at 68K, you shouldn't hesitate to buy here. You didn't see me calling for 100K, and you won't see me calling for 27K. Again, is 27K out of the question, right? Because that's the main point that everybody has been trying to say, like, we're going down to 27K. The reasoning for that is because of the 200 EMA at about 27K exact. Okay? And I'm not saying that this is out of the question, like we won't see 27K test at all. I would say if we do test it, that's definitely going to be a significant bottoming point for us if we do test that. I don't believe that we do see that unless we are in a bear market, because we'll most likely break down below that. But this would be a 61% basically almost percentage drop on Bitcoin. But again, we need to see a strong reversal on Bitcoin to even be bullish right now on anything. Again, I am taking positions just to kind of risk in a little bit. But I definitely would say if you are trying to DCA right now, if you're playing the long-term game, that's fine. Kind of, DCA in whatever you can lose, kind of look away. But, if you are trying to trade this, I would say DCA in, have a tight stop loss, because right now I'm still awaiting to see if we test this low or if our low is already in, which is a little bit of a lower low compared to the May 17th weekly candle. Now, again, like I said, I'm waiting to see a reversal on stocks. Right now, the S&P 500 is absolutely getting, smacked right now. I would say when we're talking about this current level that we came down to, it was a little bit of a demand zone of March of 2021, but like there's no support in, mind for us right now on this. Unless we come down to the 702. That 702 was a support range going back to like March of 2021 with, slight wicks below it, which could technically be our slight wicks below the 786. But the reason why I'm watching this is because we've never really broken down below this since going back to, April and, May. I mean, May, we've slightly wicked down below them slightly, ever so slightly, before going on that rally all the way to around December of 2021. So I'm watching this closely to see if we have that nice impulse back up, and if we were going to kind of hold the 4,000, line and impulse back up above the 786. But I'm definitely watching more so the NASDAQ and also the Dow Jones as well. More so, I would say I'm watching the Dow Jones more than the NASDAQ lately, especially even with the S&P, because these are both kind of really correlated to Bitcoin. But you guys can definitely see where the NASDAQ is as well. We're testing a significant point. We're going back as far as like March of 2020, where we're testing the 200 EMA here at about 11,300. If we come all the way down to that point and have a strong bounce, then that would be pretty significant to watch. I think that we could definitely see that. Again, this will allow for lower prices throughout crypto. But we definitely need to see if the S&P is going to continue to drive down to the 702, because if that's the case, we're looking at roughly like 3,800, which I could definitely see possible. I do want to see how these open tomorrow just to see more data. The Dow Jones. So this is one that I've been watching for a little bit of time. On the macro fib levels, we're almost coming down to test this fib level exactly to see if we could have a strong bounce off of this one as well. But again, I definitely do want to see a strong reversal from here on the Dow, which would be the 786 test at 31,800. If we could have a nice bounce off of this level, that would be welcoming. Again, it would drive prices down slightly. And I'm definitely watching the dollar as well. But on the Dow, I'm waiting for a nice impulse. Again, I'm waiting for a nice impulse on stocks and Bitcoin in general for a strong reversal to be seen. But we need to see, Bitcoin and stocks show their cards until we even see, what's going to happen next. I would say, right now, stocks and even Bitcoin still look fairly bearish. I'm not even going to get excited on Bitcoin until we drive momentum above $33,000 in general. Because, again, although we are seeing some nice daily volume, we've seen daily volume come in before having a nice sell-off event. I think that we'll most likely see that nice little impulse before having, a price drive down to these summer 2021 lows. But also, I know everybody has been watching the dollar. I've been waiting for this to have that sort of 180 event where we kind of come down on this, which will, give some space for Bitcoin to breathe. But it's not looking like the dollar has any signs of, weakness just yet. I think that once we see like a red candle day, everybody gets a little bit excited because they're like, is this it? Is this it? But I think that the dollar could come up a little bit higher. I think that right now, let me actually go back to the weekly chart real quick so that we can kind of zoom out and see this. So, right now we're testing some pretty significant, highs. I mean, going all the way back to like January of 2017. Before this did top out, we went on that nice little bull run to 2018. Are we going to see a reversal here? It's hard to say. I would hope for one. Or we can climb even higher. And a lot of people have been saying, like, we're going to like 111 to 125. And it is possible to see those highs before even seeing a little bit of, reversal. But I mean, the dollar has been just absolutely, going parabolic lately since going back as far as like January of 2021. So I would hope for some signs of weakness here. It's been slowing down slightly, but I think right now everyone is really kind of just waiting for this to do a 180 to see any sort of momentum shift in stocks and even crypto. But it's hard to tell even if this is going to top out. I mean, it's overstretched in terms of RSI. On the daily, you guys do see the RSI kind of weakening a little bit with this nice little impulse that we've seen going back to like April 28th to just recently. We're kind of, trading against the moving average. I want to see the dollar 180, which again will allow for stocks and crypto to kind of have that nice little reversal. But in my opinion, a lot of people are just calling for the bear market to be here. A lot of people are calling for the bottom to be in here. I think like there's a major 50-50, shift in the market. I've been seeing a lot of people say like, oh, Bitcoin is in, a reverse head and shoulders where we're going to have this nice impulse, if you will. But again, when we're talking about the 4-year cycle, our 4-year cycle top is basically in, if you believe in the 4-year cycle. I'm sitting here and I think that we just have one last major impulse until, again, things get fairly bad, which will be our entering the bear market scene. And I'm waiting for that one last major impulse. It's either I'm going down with the ship, and I've said this yesterday, either I'm going down with the ship or I'm sailing to the promised lands. Either way, I'm totally fine. Again, I'm just kind of taking the risk, taking accountability for the positions that I'm taking, having a tight stop loss in case we do kind of come down and test those significant levels. But even if we do see Bitcoin come down to those, summer lows, it's not going to be enough to push, for example, like Link down to my buy zones. And this thing has been doing fairly well since my entry point. A lot of my entries have been pretty solid for XRP and stuff. But again, my stop losses are still in place just in case we see a massive, 180 on Bitcoin back down to like 20K for an example. So with that being in mind, I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. If you guys did, definitely leave a like, subscribe, turn notifications on if you guys want more free content. You guys are more than welcome to follow me on Twitter and join the free Discord down in the description below. As always, up to you all have a beautiful day or a beautiful night wherever you guys are in this beautiful world. This has been Nick. Peace out, guys.